Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. We've got a lot to get to today. Another fun show. We're going to ask, is the Tennessee-Florida game all of a sudden a bigger deal for Florida than it is for Tennessee, which has not been the case for the past 30-something years since this rivalry became a thing. The biggest reasons Tennessee could be better in 2025, we've broken down a lot of the reasons that they look like they will be worse, but there are some reasons for excitement to believe that they'll be better. We're going to break that down. Who had the worst all season in the SEC? Bill Connolly did a ranking on ESPN of the worst all seasons among all Power 4 teams in college football. We're going to break down where Tennessee stands and how they compare to the other SEC schools. Also, news has come out that Texas A&M's 12th man foundation has dipped in funds. Has NIL money started to dry up? That'll be bank on it. And the Bill Belichick UNC coaching drama continues with his girlfriend. That is what the H. We're going to close with that because that is just too funny to talk about because this stuff makes no sense. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn your notifications on. Tell a friend. We're building something great here at Off the Hook Sports. We want you to be a part of it. Dave is dealing with the personal matter. He is out still. Again, just keep him in your thoughts and prayers. He will be back. I will be rolling with you guys today, though, to talk about all these things. A lot of fun stuff to talk about. Again, like and subscribe and ring the bell and turn on your notifications. The show is represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We are live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Let's get rolling with today's tough question. And it has to do with the biggest game for Tennessee this year and the biggest game for Florida this year. Will Baucus of CBS Sports recently wrote, and this was on Sunday, the games that will define the 2025 season for every team in the top 25. He did consider Tennessee in the top 25. He had them at number 20. He had Tennessee's most important game to be at Alabama. Ironically, and I understand this because of how the all seasons went for both schools and how they finished last year, he had Florida, who he's ranked at number 10 spots ahead of Tennessee. He had their most important game to be Tennessee. Will Baucus' reasoning is this. Now, let me get to Tennessee with Alabama first. Here's what he said. The calculus for Tennessee's 2025 season changed a bit after a brutal spring that saw it lose high upside starting quarterback Nico Iamaleava and whiff on some much-needed wide receiver reinforcements in the transfer portal. Yet the Vols still have a shot to make it to the college football playoff for a second consecutive season. In order to get there, they will need to show they can hang in tough road games, including one against an Alabama team that they've beaten twice, both at home in the past 3 years. Now, here's his argument for Tennessee being Florida's biggest game. He says Florida has tougher opponents on another gauntlet of a schedule, but this annual rivalry contest could come with major late season CFP implications for both teams. This is also a game arguably stacked in Florida's favor, given Tennessee's tumultuous offseason and the fact that the Vols' well-documented road struggles under Coach Josh Heupel, not to mention their struggles at Florida. That's going to lead to today's tough question, which is this. And today's tough question is brought to you by Banks & Jones, and we have it up as a poll question too. For the first time in a long time, is Tennessee-Florida a bigger game for Florida than it is for Tennessee? Now, Tennessee has won 2 of the last 3, but from roughly, we're going to say 1995 all the way until 2022. I think Florida was definitely a bigger game for Tennessee than Tennessee was for Florida. Most of those years, Florida was the better team. And even when they weren't the better team during the Spurrier years, they were owning Tennessee. Also during that time, Florida, even when the programs were at their peak and this rivalry was at its peak, Florida also had to deal with Florida State at their peak. So they had to circle 2 games. And Florida State would be later in the year, so I think they took Florida State more seriously. Just to give you an example, in 95, Florida went undefeated. They beat Florida State at the end of the regular season. That's what propelled them to the national title game before they lost the title game to Nebraska. They also ended up being Tennessee's only loss. A year later, they beat Tennessee at Neyland Stadium, lost to Florida State at the end of the regular season, got a rematch with Florida State to beat them in the national title game 52-20. The point I'm making is this. Florida had to circle both games, and oftentimes they circled Florida State more. Then came the Urban Meyer years, and Florida launched an 11-game winning streak in a period in which they won 16 of 17 from 2005 to 2021 against Tennessee, in which Urban Meyer, Will Muschamp, and Dan Mullen all went undefeated against Tennessee. Jim McElwain lost one game, went 2-1. It was an embarrassing look. Tennessee has somewhat flipped the script the last 3 years. They've won 2 of 3. However, both at home. This game's at Florida. Florida, meanwhile, backed into a bowl game finally with a strong finish under Billy Napier last year after missing a bowl 2 years in a row. And in all 3 instances, Tennessee was the better team, even though they lost to Florida in Gainesville 2 years ago. That loss to Florida in Gainesville 2 years ago effectively saved Billy Napier's job in the moment he could have been fired. I bring all this up to say this. There's a really strong argument all of a sudden that the Tennessee-Florida game is now a bigger deal for Florida than it is for Tennessee. Now, there are some reasons I disagree, and I'm going to say, and my answer is no. It's still a bigger deal for Tennessee. For 2 reasons, actually. First off, and this is already up, David Speaks says it right. Florida is our mental block. If you're a Tennessee fan, yes, Florida is your mental block. Florida's a mental block for Tennessee, and it has been. I think there are times where Tennessee should have beaten Florida, but the mental block of them playing Florida is why they lost. It's the same thing with Kentucky playing Tennessee. There have been years in which Kentucky was better than Tennessee, 2018, 2021. But Tennessee won because somehow they are just a mental block for Kentucky, and Kentucky feels like they're not supposed to win that game. Even 2023, I think Tennessee was better than Kentucky, but playing at Kentucky, that's a game Kentucky should have won. So I definitely think Tennessee's a mental block for Kentucky. Florida's a mental block for Tennessee. Just go back. All you have to do is go back to that 2014 to 2017 4-year run. Tennessee in 2014 and 2015 blew a two-possession fourth quarter lead both times to lose by 1 point. And then in 2017, they lost on a Hail Mary. Now, part of that was just Butch Jones being Butch Jones, but there's still this mental block that, we're playing Florida. 2023, I think, happened too. The minute it spiraled a little bit when Tennessee was playing Florida, panic set in because the fact that they're playing Florida and they're struggling, that causes panic. That's why even when they're at home and playing a bad, floundering Florida team, 2022 and 2024, they have to eke out wins both times. It's just crazy. They needed overtime this past year. That's one reason Florida is still a bigger game for Tennessee than it is for Florida. But there's another reason, too, for this year specifically. And I want to bring that up. First off, today's tough question, again, brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott.
The poll question up, vote on it now. Is the Tennessee-Florida game in 2025 is a bigger deal for Tennessee or Florida? 82% of you are saying Tennessee, and you 82% are right. 18% say Florida. Now, here's the other reason Florida's Tennessee's biggest game this year. It's on the road, and Florida's actually a good team. There's a reason, for instance, that Will Balkus put Florida in the top 10. I mean, he had them right at number 10, and the reason he had them at number 10 is because the reason he has them at number 10 is because they have added a bunch of talent. They had a strong finish to last year. They beat Ole Miss. They beat LSU. They almost beat Tennessee. DJ Lagway is looking like a more and more elite quarterback, and all of a sudden, Florida is in the college football playoff race. Look, Florida's Tennessee's biggest game. Florida's going to define if they get into the playoff or not. Because let me just tell you guys up front, they're losing to Georgia in September. They're just not going to be ready to win that game. You can write that off. I don't care that it's at home. You can write it off. Here's the other problem. I don't think Alabama is as bad. I think Alabama's going to return to being the Alabama we saw under Nick Saban. I think they have it all together. Kalen DeBoer was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole with Jalen Milroe last year, and the only reason he did it is because the team loved Jalen Milroe. Kalen DeBoer made a calculation of, let me stay above water for a year while Jalen Milroe is the quarterback and try to win with him because I don't want to lose the team as a whole, and then I'll get my guys the next year. Kalen DeBoer and Alabama are going to take off. So when Will Boggus says Alabama is Tennessee's biggest game, I don't think they are, because I think Alabama is another almost chalked up as a loss. I think Georgia and Alabama are chalked up losses, meaning to get to the college football playoff, Tennessee will have to win at Florida to get to 10-2. They're not getting in at 9-3. There will be a team reach the college football playoff at 9-3 at some point, but Tennessee's not going to be that team this year because the schedule doesn't favor them enough. So honestly, I think the biggest reason Tennessee needs to win the Florida game is because they have to win that to get to the college football playoff. It will define them. Now, as far as Florida goes, Florida has to visit Ole Miss. They have Georgia on a neutral site. They have Georgia in November, so that it's a more winnable game for them than Tennessee was, than Georgia is for Tennessee. They visit LSU and Miami in September. Look, to get to the playoff, Florida could beat Tennessee and still not make the playoff. Okay, Florida could lose to Tennessee. If Florida loses to Tennessee, they're probably not going to the playoff either. However, their path is still, they got to win again, either at LSU, at Miami, at Texas A&M, or against Georgia on a neutral site. They got to win 2 of those games. So because of that, Tennessee can't be their most important game. Tennessee almost has to be chalked up as a win. Florida is nowhere close to Tennessee. Tennessee is nowhere close to Florida's toughest game. So with that in mind, no, I think Florida is Tennessee's most important game. Beating Florida gets Tennessee into the playoff, assuming they don't have another road mess up like they've had in 2022 and 2024 with South Carolina and Arkansas. Highly possible, but their other road games are Mississippi State. I don't see that happening in Starkville. Jeff Levy is building a good program there, but they're going to still be pretty bad this year. And Kentucky on the road. Tennessee doesn't lose to Kentucky. That just doesn't happen. So those are the only 2 chances of a road slip up. Those are the 2. I think those 2 games are almost impossible to lose. So with that in mind, I would say that, yeah, the Tennessee-Florida game in 2025 is a bigger deal for Tennessee. 1, because the Tennessee-Florida game is always a bigger deal for Tennessee since it's a middle block. But 2, and honestly, more importantly, I make the argument that the Tennessee-Florida game is needed more for Tennessee just based on how this year goes. So, yeah, taking that into account, yeah, Tennessee-Florida game is a much, much, much bigger deal for Tennessee. It just is. And so that hasn't really changed. So I got to say, even though I understand where Will Boggus is coming from, I actually think that, yeah, I think Tennessee-Florida is a bigger deal for Tennessee. And I have a hard time seeing how it's not. The poll question, you guys seem to agree with me. It's now 81% Tennessee, 19% Florida. You guys are right. It is. I mean, I totally agree. It's 81% Tennessee, 19% Florida. That's just how it is. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chatwith2tsmortgage.com. Chatwith2tsmortgage.com. We now move on to a topic, speaking of Tennessee, Florida, of positivity, because honestly, we have to give some reasons why you should be excited about this Tennessee football team. There's a lot of reasons on why Tennessee could be worse this year than they were better. We talked about that yesterday. The all season revealed that, and we're going to talk about SEC teams all season soon enough. However, Tennessee also has reasons in which they could be better. And we're going to talk about that now because they're not talked about enough. It's going to be 4 Downs. 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. We are live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Tennessee has a lot going for it in terms of trying to be better this year. What are the biggest reasons they could be better? That'll be 4 downs now. I don't have the board, so I'm just going to channel Cooper Mays here to tell you guys to hit like and subscribe. And Coop brings you first down why Tennessee will be better in 2025. The linebackers are much more experienced. Look, Arian Carter is a raw, talented guy and has a ton of athleticism and is going to be very elite and a special player, and I think an NFL star. He was in his first year starting last year, so he was out of position at times and struggled in different blitz schemes and blitz packages. Jeremiah Thielander, meanwhile, had to be plugged in the middle of the season because Keenan Peely suffered a season-ending injury. One of the criticisms of Tim Banks when Tennessee faced Georgia and when Tennessee faced Ohio State was that the defensive line, which had been great all year, did not get the pressure they needed to, but Tim Banks didn't dial up any blitz packages. Well, one of the reasons I believe he didn't dial up blitz packages is because Carter and Thielander just didn't have the experience. Again, that's about the linebackers making the right moves and being in the right position and making the right calls. He's going to have a lot more flexibility with them this year. They're both really good. They just needed experience playing. They have it now. So I think in 2025, a more experienced linebacker core will allow Tim Banks to be a lot more creative with what he dials up in his blitz packages. So linebackers being more experienced is, to me, the actual biggest reason Tennessee will be better in 2025. That was first down from Coop. Second down from Cooper Mays. The wide receiver room should upgrade significantly. Brew McCoy's medical retirement, and I talked about this last week with Jimmy Hyams, was evidence that Tennessee's receiver room was severely limited last year because Josh Heupel went all in on McCoy as his go-to wideout coming off a broken leg. McCoy had lost his step and wasn't able to dictate coverage the way he could in 2022 when Cedric Tillman went down. Because he was unable to dictate coverage, guys didn't roll off from other players like Dante Thornton and even Squirrel White in the slot. And more importantly, Nico Iamaleava couldn't lead Brew McCoy on deep balls the way Josh Heupel wants his quarterbacks to. Squirrel White, meanwhile, played the whole year or a big portion of the year with a separated shoulder, and Dante Thornton himself was coming off injury. Those were the 3 rotational guys, all of them hampered, none more than Brew McCoy, which slowed the entire receiver room. Chris Brazzell was the 4th guy that got a lot of catches. He is back this year. He should be better. And again, he wasn't supposed to be one of the main 3 rotational guys last year. He just had to because of the injuries I was talking about. So with Brew McCoy and Squirrel White and Dante Thornton gone, in their place, you have Chris Brazzell, the full-time number 2 wideout, a possession receiver who you can just throw the ball up to and hope they make a play. Braylon Staley and Boo Carter alternating time in the slot. Staley those 2 together should be better than Squirrel White was last year in the slot just because they're healthier. And then Mike Matthews, who I believe does have the speed and size necessary to dictate coverage the way I'm talking about. And with that in mind, I think Mike Matthews as the go-to wideout changes everything and leads to an upgraded receiver room, significantly so. Now, the question is, will the quarterback be willing to let the possession receiver and Chris Brazzell go up and make a play in one-on-one coverage? And that leads us to third down by Tennessee center Cooper Mays. Tennessee has more experience at quarterback. Now, we've discussed it at length, ad nauseum, about the differences between Josh Heupel, Nico Iamaleava, and Joey Aguilar. What are the advantages to Tennessee landing Aguilar? What are the disadvantages to losing Nico? All of those things. We've broken that down to the umpth degree. But one area in which Joey Aguilar is an advantage is his gunslinger mentality. Because Josh Heupel's system doesn't design enough plays for you to have opportunities to throw that many interceptions. So gunslinger can fit really well because the drawback on a gunslinger is not much of a drawback. More importantly, gunslingers let their receivers make plays. Aguilar will throw it up and let Chris Brazzell make a play. Nico Iamaleava did not do that last year. So more experience at quarterback means a better understanding of when receivers make plays. Most importantly, better pocket presence. I do think Joey Aguilar is going to have better pocket presence than Nico Iamaleava had last year. And by the way, I told you guys this a while ago. I think Tennessee's quarterback situation is not as good as it would have been had Nico stayed, but it will be better than it was last. Joey Aguilar will be better than Nico was last year, just not better than what Nico would have been this year. That does mean an upgrade at quarterback, though. Technically, if I'm comparing this year to last year and saying why Tennessee will be better. So the more experience at quarterback and just the improved play in general at quarterback, not from where it would have been with Nico, but just where it will be from last year, is a reason Tennessee will be better. Aguilar's gunslinger mentality, his willingness for players to make plays, and his pocket presence are all huge deals. And the pocket presence is the biggest thing. That was a weakness for Nico Iamaleava. More on that with pocket presence and the passing game. It'll lead us to fourth down first. Again, 4 downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford.
All SEC center Cooper Mays brings you fourth down. Fourth down in an underrated reason that Tennessee could be better in 2025. Healthy pass blockers. Yes, healthy pass blockers. Now, we have talked about the interior of the offensive line for Tennessee. I don't see how they come close to matching what they did last year with Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins, two of the best interior linemen in Tennessee history. And I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that. Plus Andre Carrick being a solid blocker last year, taking a huge step forward. They were incredible. They blocked for an amazing running back in Dylan Sampson. And the combination of those three interior blockers and Sampson's elite running led to Sampson setting the school record for rushing yards in a season and rushing touchdowns in a season. They're not going to repeat that. But the pass blocking was an issue, because Lance Hurd and John Campbell Jr. were both hurt the first half of the season. Hurd had a sprained ankle. Second half of the season, Hurd got much better as he got healthier. Lance Hurd's back, and he's healthy. John Campbell Jr. is solid. He's gone. He graduated. Tennessee brings in David Sanders Jr. You may think that should make this a fear, and it could make this a concern. However, David Sanders is a 5-star and the highest rated recruit for Tennessee since Eric Berry. Those type of players are the rare guys you expect to be able to start as freshmen. More importantly, in Josh Heupel's system, there's not a lot of complexities when it comes to playing tackle in the system. So you can really just plug a guy in, and David Sanders is a talented guy you can just plug in. This is why Larry Johnson hit the portal. So assuming those things are true, the pass protection is going to be healthier, meaning the pass blocking should be better. If Tennessee had healthy tackles, they beat Arkansas last year and they advanced further in the college football playoff because they finished 11-1 and they host a playoff game in the first round. They play for the SEC title. With that in mind, I would say healthy pass protection is a very underrated reason they could be better. The poll question is up right now, guys. If Tennessee is better in 2025, it will be due to more experience at linebacker, upgrade at wide receiver, better quarterback, or healthy pass blockers. Go ahead and vote on that now. I want to get to the message board, some of y'all's thoughts. Adam says Nico is like an F-35 that's missing its computer chip. Yep. You also make a great point, Adam. Linebacker experience is what to be excited about. Tennessee lost to Georgia because linebackers couldn't defend the pass. You're right, Adam. And it wasn't that they weren't athletic enough. It was that they were still struggling and learning the system. And Jeremiah Thielander was not ready to be a starter. So I think that's a really, really, really big deal. Now, Derek, you bring up, I don't see the defensive line being the same. Good luck, Tim Banks. You are right, Derek. They won't be the same. That was what I talked about yesterday. One of the reasons Tennessee, if you weigh everything out, it's likely Tennessee is worse this year than they were last year. But at the same time, I'm bringing up reasons they could be better this year. So, and I think the quarterback play and the wide receivers should be better. Sam Strock says, I'm not kidding. I think Tennessee should have a defense just as good and better receivers, offensive line and quarterback. Running back as a collective and tight end should be basically the same. All right, Sam, that's a little ambitious. I'm going to address all of those, actually. Defense just as good as possible if the linebackers do what I think they should do. But remember, Jamal McCoy is hurt. Better receivers, totally agree. Better offensive line, I did just bring up the pass blocking, but the offensive line as a unit, sorry, totally disagree. That you can't erase how good the interior of that line was with Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins, and Andre Carrick. Quarterback could be better. Running backs as a collective, again, no, because the interior of the offensive line is going to be worse. And then tight end, you're right, basically the same, but Miles Kittelman is banged up. That's the only reason. But at the same time, Ethan Davis should be more ready this year than he was last year. So I think a lot of different reasons that Tennessee could be better. Derek brings up a great point. Home field advantage and an SEC championship appearance, and they probably keep Nico. You're right, Derek. If Tennessee beats Arkansas, we might be looking back one day and talking about how Arkansas altered the future. That Arkansas game altered the future so much. And that might be a topic for tomorrow, because if Tennessee beats Arkansas, they host a playoff. They make the SEC title. They host a playoff. NIL people are willing to cobble up more money, and they will really want to keep Nico at that moment. So I'm just saying that I think that Arkansas game is more underrated than we think, and it came down to pass protection issues. As far as the poll question goes, I'm going to leave it up for a little while, but as of right now, if Tennessee is better in 2025, it will be due to more experience at linebacker, upgraded wide receiver, better quarterback, healthy pass blockers. 55% of you say better quarterback, 18% say more experience at linebacker, 18% say upgraded wide receiver, and 9% say healthy pass blockers. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com, hemphousechat.com. Again, Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. That's HOOKED for 10% off. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about SEC teams that had a, shall we say, bad all season. Is that fair to say? Sorry, we're going to compare all seasons among all SEC teams. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by Haun Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. hdknoxville.com. hdknoxville.com. We are going now to discuss who had the worst offseason in the SEC. But first, time for a little bit of this day in Tennessee history. And it's kind of an interesting one, believe it or not. On this day, back in 2014, Tennessee beat Morehead State 14-13 at Lindsey Nelson Stadium in the middle of a midweek game. This is under head coach Dave Serrano. It was a game that lasted 12 innings and went 4 hours and 57 minutes in what became the longest game in Tennessee baseball history. That happened on May the 13th, 2014, 11 years ago. So, That was obviously a different time for Tennessee baseball. I don't know if you look at the way they've been playing recently, they look like they're going back to the Dave Serrano years because they have been struggling on the diamond in a big way ever since SEC play began. But that's a story for another day. We'll talk about that to see if they can get back to the College World Series. Baseball is unfortunately for Tennessee a postseason sport. All right. Who has had the worst offseason in the SEC? Tennessee obviously generated a lot of coverage for how things went in the offseason for them this past year. Did they have the worst offseason in the SEC? That'll be Hot or Cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters, cityheatandair.com. We're going to go down the list of SEC teams and discuss whether or not they had a good or a bad offseason based on what they needed to do and what their goals were. Now, this isn't just a ranking of bad or good. This is just did you achieve the goals you wanted? So we're going to start with Alabama. Did Alabama have the offseason they wanted in the SEC? I'm going to say yes. Now, Alabama didn't add much, but they didn't lose much either, okay? And Ryan Grubb coming in to become Alabama's offensive coordinator after spending a year in Seattle is huge. Ryan Grubb was there in Washington when DeBoer had all of his best success. Bringing him in is a huge year. Now, I know 23 scholarship players transferred out of the program, and it looked like Alabama was collapsing. They have the offense they need. They have the quarterback situation they need, and they have a lot of starters back. I think the offseason went exactly how they wanted. They kept their key guys for the most part. So I'm going to say hot. I'm hot on Alabama. They got who they wanted, and they did what they needed to do in the offseason. I wouldn't worry about them that much. Arkansas. This is so up in the air, but I'm cold. Losing Madden Iamaleava to UCLA was a really, really, really big L. And honestly, Arkansas lost more than almost anybody. They lost Patrick Kudus. They lost Addison Nichols, who was once at Tennessee and actually played well for them last year. Isaiah Sategna, Luke Haas. Okay, they lost way too much talent in the offseason. They had a bad offseason. So I'm cold on Arkansas's offseason. Auburn. Hugh Freeze is desperate. I'm hot on Auburn. They had a good offseason. Will it translate to wins on the field? I don't know. It looks more like desperation than anything else. But they did add Jackson Arnold, who I think still has a lot of talent. I think last year he was stuck in a bad system with Seth Littrell at Oklahoma and Brent Venables. That program there is going south. I think that having Jackson Arnold is going to be a big deal. And Hugh Freeze loaded up with talent everywhere. So Auburn, I'm hot on. Had a good offseason. Florida. Guys, I'm really hot on Florida. They returned everybody that was key. The portal movement wasn't heavy. But here's Josh Pate said something about Florida recently that's kind of sticking with me and what they've been doing with Billy Napier. That's anti what every other college football program does. And I still have questions about Billy Napier, the coach. However, college football is surrounded with teams going 65, 70, 75, 80 miles an hour on the highway to try to get to where they're trying to go. And most of the time they crash out. Florida has been staying at 45 miles an hour with Billy Napier for 3 to 4 years, getting to their destination. They didn't move much in the portal. The key for them was to keep who they had. And they did it after a strong finish to the 2024 season and DJ Lagway coming back. And I think that focus with more experience. Yeah, no, I'm hot. I think they had a really good offseason. I think they had a great one, actually. So Florida, I'm going to say is, yes, I'm hot on. Great offseason. Georgia. Bad all season. They lost the quarterback. They lost Carson Beck. I know you could say that they'll be fine. They're loaded elsewhere, and they probably are, but they lost Carson Beck. They had a couple more arrests because people can't stop drag racing, or people can't stop racing there. Okay. And Gunnar Stockton didn't look like he could fully replace Carson Beck in the college football playoff. And so they also, by the way, lost Jaden Rashada, who I think hit the portal again, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he has. So Georgia had a bad all season. Sorry, they did. Cold on Georgia. Kentucky. Ooh, Kentucky. They had a really bad year last year with Mark Stoops. They can't cash in on the easy bottom of the SEC East anymore with the no divisions. But they do have 4 experienced starters added on the offensive line. They have defensive line talent. They didn't lose that much to the portal. Yes, they lost Dane Key, a key receiver, and Barian Brown, but quite honestly, I don't think those were big losses. And I think they're able to add a little more raw talent elsewhere. And truth be told, they at least upgraded in the trenches, which was the most important thing. They upgraded at the areas that Stoops wants to upgrade because Mark Stoops wants to run that defense first program. I'm going to say hot, but maybe not as hot as they needed it to be to return to a bowl game. However, I think Kentucky could end up being better than many other people think. So I'm going to say hot slightly on Kentucky. If they weren't so bad last year, I'd say easy hot, but because of all their needs, I might say slightly hot. LSU, extremely hot on. Extremely hot. Brian Kelly and LSU had a much, much, much better all season than anybody. I think LSU and Brian Kelly should expect to try to win a national title this year, but at the same time, it could be out of desperation too, because I'm going to talk a little bit about all the different pickups, because also high on the list, who am I hot on? Oklahoma. They had a John Mateer, they had Jaden Knott, they had a Kendall Daniels. They, Brent Venables hired Ben Arbuckle, who brought Mateer with him from Washington State. Arbuckle obviously developed Cam Ward. They are loaded with talent that they've added because Brent Venables is trying to avoid falling onto the hot seat this year. So I'm hot on them, but I got to say something real quick. I have said I'm hot on LSU, Oklahoma, and Auburn. For the record, Bill Connolly ranked those as having the 3 best off seasons in the SEC. What do those 3 all have in common? The schools and fan bases are very disappointed and fed up with the coaches of those programs right now. LSU thought that they were building a dynasty, that they were getting a dynasty in Brian Kelly because he was the first coach with brain cells they had hired since Nick Saban. And they had won 2 national titles with coaches who had no brain cells. Auburn thought they were getting a brilliant offensive mind in Hugh Freeze. Neither has worked out to where they wanted to. LSU has had success with Kelly, but nowhere near what they expected. And Auburn has been a disaster with Hugh Freeze. Oklahoma, meanwhile, with Brent Venables, that was a hopeful hire that really hasn't worked out. All 3 of those programs are desperate. When you're desperate, you make bigger moves and go for bigger splashes in the offseason. So I do have to point that out. All right, so moving on. Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin last year went all in on the portal to try to build a winning team. Was he able to do it again? Truth be told, no. Lane Kiffin, if you're going to go all in on the portal the way he has, you got to pick up huge stars. They didn't pick up huge stars the way Lane Kiffin wanted to, particularly with Jackson Dart gone. So I know they have their quarterback, but they also lost Walter Nolan. They didn't just lose Jackson Dart. They also lost Walter Nolan and Trey Harris. And they didn't add any splash players to compete with them. Okay, so, Harrison Wallace, Dukes Alexander, Caleb Odom, Caden Lee is back. But those 3, and then Luke Haas and Damian Taylor, solid experienced guys, but not what Ole Miss needs. I think they're going to have a drop-off from last year. Mississippi State. We can talk some desperation here because Jeff Lebby had a horrible first year. I thought he was going to make more of a splash than he did, and they went 2-10. Jeff Lebby kept everybody back. He's not changing. He's not deviating from his plan, but I have to say I'm cold on their all season. They didn't have a good all season. They didn't fill all the holes that they needed to. I think Jeff Lebby is a little too committed to just building his program and keeping his guys in-house. And I think he needed to upgrade, specifically going outside of the family, and he didn't do that. So I'm cold on Mississippi State and the talent upgrade they did. Now, Missouri, I'm hot on them. I know they lost a lot of guys, most notably Brady Cook and Luther Burden, and I think Eli Drinkwitz is a goofball, and I'm not sure they'll be as good this year. But in terms of what they needed to do, Well, they still have some stability, and most importantly, they kept Kirby Moore, their offensive coordinator, who really has been the success behind everything they've been doing recently. So taking that into account, I'm actually very hot on Mississippi State and what they are doing, because Kirby Moore has really been behind most of their success and their turnaround under Eli Drinkwitz, and keeping him when he could have gotten a head coaching offer somewhere else is a huge deal. That alone makes them having a good all season and makes them worth being hot on. South Carolina, I'm cold on them. Now, obviously Lenora Sellers coming back is huge, but there's other losses that they had that just aren't going to work. They lost Dowell Loggins to Appalachian State, the offensive coordinator I wasn't that high on, but he proved me wrong, and I'll take the L. He proved me wrong. I hated him when he was with the Titans. He also mishandled the Cleveland Browns Johnny Manziel situation. Maybe not his fault, but losing him is big. Mike Shula being promoted to head coach, not a bad hire, or offensive coordinator, not a bad promotion. The former Alabama head coach, Mike Shula, remember, did help Carolina get to the Super Bowl with Cam Newton. He'll know how to coach Lenora Sellers. But still, the stability with Dowell Loggins is a big deal. But most importantly, they lost a ton of talent on defense, and Shane Beamer didn't replace the talent he needed to on defense. So I don't think they're going to be in the college football playoff hunt next year. I'm going to save Tennessee for last, but I'm going to jump to Texas in terms of that offseason. Well, I'm really hot on Texas. Both coordinators are back. All three of their coordinators are back. Yes, he lost a safety, but he's added some talent. He added Murad Wilson, Jack Andrews, Emmett Mosley V. Arch Manning is now ready to start. Quinn Ewers just choosing to go to the NFL early is why this is a win. He didn't have to split his team by benching Ewers and going with Arch Manning, because Arch Manning is the better quarterback, and it's time to go with him. Texas, I'm hot. They had a good all season. Texas A&M. We know Mike Elko went 8-5 his first year. I'm a huge believer in Texas A&M long term, because they actually have an Ivy League head coach. You guys know my feeling on college football coaches. I think most of them are not smart. And I think with most of them not being smart, a coach with brain cells can sometimes be light years ahead of them. Go back and think about what Steve Spurrier was able to do in the 90s to the rest of the SEC. I think that keeping the continuity on the staff was a big deal. I do think they had some key losses excuse me, on the defensive line, but man, they added some playmakers, and that's what they needed. And Kevin Concepcion, Tennessee fans will remember him. He was at NC State last year. Getting him was a huge deal. And mostly just keeping things together. Unlike Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State, I think for Texas A&M, the need was more just about stability and continuity and developing together as a team. They have the talent, so the fact that they didn't lose a ton is a big deal, and I think that's going to help. Moving on, Vanderbilt. I'm hot on them because they got Diego Pavia back. Diego Pavia winning that eligibility lawsuit is enough to be hot on Vanderbilt, because Diego Pavia, that dude can play. That alone is why you should be hot on Vanderbilt. Going to talk Tennessee next. First, hot or cold, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Did Tennessee have a good or bad all season? They had a bad all season. Sorry, guys. I'm going to stick with this. I've told you guys, I think the Joey Aguilar move was a good pickup. He will be better than Nico Iamaleava was last year. He will not be better than Nico Iamaleava would have been this year. I think that was not a good all season for Tennessee with that in mind. So I think that because of that, now Tennessee had I'm going to say it, Tennessee had a bad all season. Now I'm going to set up the poll question. Which SEC team had a worse offseason than Tennessee? Because there are 5 SEC teams that had a worse offseason than Tennessee, or that I said had a bad offseason that I'm cold on. Arkansas, Georgia, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Tennessee. So I'm going to say Arkansas, Georgia, Mississippi State, and South Carolina. Which SEC team had a worse offseason than Tennessee? Arkansas, Georgia, Mississippi State, and South Carolina. Of the four, I'm going to say South Carolina, and here's why. Georgia still has enough talent to compete for the college football playoff, which is the goal. Arkansas and Mississippi State both didn't expect to make the playoffs, so the hill is not that high to climb. South Carolina was on the cusp of the playoff last year. Their goal was to make it this year with Lenore Sellers. They didn't do what they needed to do in the offseason to do it. So I think South Carolina had, I have to say that I think South Carolina had a worse offseason than Tennessee. I think South Carolina may have had the worst offseason period, and that's not a good sign. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. hdknoxville.com. hdknoxville.com. Also, This Day in Tennessee Sports History, which I brought to you guys earlier, was brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. peakivhydration.com. Link is in the chat now. peakivhydration.com. Got a little bit more to talk about, a good bit more to talk about. Speaking of Texas A&M, we're going to talk about that next because Texas A&M's NIL funds are drying up a little bit. And is this a sign of a trend happening in college football everywhere? Stick with us. 2 minutes Off the Hook Sports, the show brought to you by Banks & Jones, live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, hey, Bo, Off the Hook sent you. QualityTirePros.com. All right. The poll question up. Which SEC team had a worse all season than Tennessee? 50% say Arkansas, 25% say Georgia, 25% say South Carolina. I'm leaning South Carolina more than anybody else. Our teams are let me start that over. Our boosters pulling NIL funds and growing sour on the whole notion. That is a question it is time to ask. The 12th Man Foundation, Texas A&M's athletic fundraising arm, saw its annual revenue drop by more than $25 million from fiscal year 2023 to 2024, just as they had to pay Jimbo Fisher's buyout. An article by Daniel Libet at Yahoo Sports, citing a copy of A&M's latest tax return obtained by Sportico. The 12th Man Foundation reported bringing in $95.7 million in fiscal year 2024, set off against $116 million in expenditures. It brought in $120 million in total for fiscal year 2023, a gigantic drop of $26 million. And the decrease in contributions and grants, it went from $113 million to $85 million. Now, Texas A&M's expenditures increased from $194 million to $243 million because Jimbo Fisher got the most insane buyout in history. However, is this a sign that teams are souring on NIL money? Texas A&M should have been at the top of the pack of NIL money. We always talk about Texas, but Texas A&M has that oil money, okay? Oil executives, more than anybody else. For those who don't know, most people in the billionaire class just worship their money, and they only do things that they could see getting them a return on investment because, again, they put money over morals. They put profits over everything. We talk about this with Nike as the booster for Oregon. They'll be an Oregon booster, but Phil Knight sees their value on that return to a certain degree. The only exception to this is oil executives, who most of the time don't get rich through business planning or anything like that. They get rich because they moved out west, took a risk, struck oil when they went to an oil field, and landed $1 billion. And then they don't know what to do with their money for the rest of their life, so they just throw it on the table to try to do something. That's exactly what Jerry Jones does, okay? More than any other type of billionaire, they do it they do a lot of vanity projects for fun. Here's the problem. If they're willing to dry up their funds, which they're doing with Texas A&M, they're spending less money, then all NIL collectives are about to have their funds dry up. Because if oil executives are reducing what they give, billionaire executives everywhere are reducing what they give. So bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. NIL revenue is drying up, and it's going to create a problem for schools going forward. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions.
The poll question up is NIL spending about to decrease? And you guys let me know what you think on it. I'm going to say yes, it's not a good investment. Or no, billionaires or boosters like to throw out money. Or boosters like to throw out cash. So that's the question. Is NIL spending about to decrease? Yes, it's not a good investment. No, boosters like to throw out cash. Actually, I mistyped that. Let me say this again. I typed it wrong. Okay. Is NIL spending about to decrease? And you can say yes, it's a bad it's a bad investment, or no, boosters like to throw out cash. All right, now that's how you vote on it, guys. Is NIL spending about to decrease? Yes, it's not a good investment. No, boosters like to throw out cash. Go ahead and vote on that on the poll question now. I'm going to tell you this right now. It's about to decrease. Now, boosters are about, again, they like, when NIL started, I think a couple of years ago with Nico Iamaleava getting the $2 million and the $8 million and Bryce Young getting $1 million before he ever played a game. I think, look, there's a combination of boosters of college football programs will throw around a little bit of money to try to see their team win on Saturday so they can brag about it on Monday amongst their work buddies. I firmly believe that that's been going on since the beginning of time. But again, when NIL and the walls first came down in 2021, there was such a rush. Boosters were very excited about it. They wanted to open up the checkbook. And I think the thinking was they could get these highly touted players like Nico Iamaleava to Tennessee, do endorsements with them, and those endorsements would pay off in other forms of advertising for them. It's bad business. Hasn't worked. And as Will West pointed out to us, I guess it was about 3 Fridays ago, NIL is not a moneymaker for anybody, guys. And I think these boosters thought that maybe not that they would make a profit off this, but that they would get a somewhat of a return on investment for dishing out money for these players. They haven't gotten it. Not only have they not gotten it from a financial standpoint, they've lost. If they spent $8 million on Nico, they're out $8 million. Okay, there wasn't any return from that at all. Any sort of endorsement deals or promotions or anything that they got out of an advantage from that. It's one thing to spend a few $100,000 to build a program and not get any return. A few million, though, and many NIL budgets are around 20 million, is a totally different story. On top of that, they're getting spurned. I just brought up Nico. He transferred. They opened up the checkbook. They opened up the checkbook for him, got no profit back from him, and then he transferred, and he didn't really deliver for them that much on what they wanted. They didn't see much value in him last year. Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M, probably the boosters cobbled up all that money for that buyout. They're unhappy about that. Then they go 8-5. They're deciding we don't want to buy all these players at Texas A&M. And guys, those are oil executives at Texas A&M. They don't care if they lose their money. Like, they like to throw around the money. These boosters, I'm telling you, are very, very, very upset about the state of NIL. And they are deciding that it's not a good investment. And this is happening everywhere. And it's going to keep happening. And how will the players respond? The House settlement is coming. The House settlement is coming. But I talked about this yesterday. The House settlement means $21 million roughly for a school to pay players directly per school. And they got to divvy that up among a bunch of different sports, primarily football. But they got to divvy it up among everybody. That'll be enough to keep the players afloat. But some players are making way more on the NIL market, and that money is going to collapse. And what's going to happen when the next 5-star quarterback in 2027, who read about Nico Iamaleava getting $8 million in 2022, that 5-star quarterback goes to a school and realizes he's not getting an offer anywhere better than $500,000 at any school. Because that's how this is about to work out, guys. And there is no way anybody could expect this to happen. One of the things that we realized is that, and this was a really big deal. One of the things that we brought up for a while is that, and this was a great analogy I read, the NIL market opening up in 2021 was the equivalent of the Berlin Wall falling. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, and then the Soviet Union just dissolved immediately in 1991. And then you had all these different countries form. Matter of fact, just a quick history lesson on this I want to bring up. A lot of people talk about the agreements that NATO made with the Soviet Union, that they wouldn't expand on the Soviet Union's borders, and that NATO violated those agreements by adding countries in the late 90s, early 2000s. That's certainly true. The other side of that, though, what NATO would argue is that that agreement was with the Soviet Union, not Russia. No one saw the Soviet Union falling as quickly as it did. We're in that stage with NIL. Things are happening so fast. Agreements are being made based on things that could change and dissolve within 2 years because we have no idea how this is going to work out. What we do know is people are not getting a return on their investment. If Texas A&M boosters are willing to tighten their pocketbooks a little bit on this, then you have to be honest, a lot of other schools will too. Now, Nathaniel Kim says something: millionaires care about return on investment. Billionaires care about what other billionaires think. Yeah, but Nathaniel, what do other billionaires think? They judge you based on who's got the most of the billions. So taking that into account, they still do think about return on investment to a certain degree. And GBMFO says the point I was going to make, and I'm going to talk about this later. GBMFO, great point. Coach wages should drop to their glorified PE teachers. You know what? I totally agree with you. And I'm telling you this right now. There is a Moneyball situation. The first school to do this will figure this out and will win. Convince the boosters to not cobble up money for a head coach. hire some rando out of high school somewhere to like some rando high school football coach in the middle of nowhere to coach your football team. And then you use all that extra money to go buy a national championship. I think coaching is one of the most overrated, overpaid jobs now. It made sense when you didn't have any players, when you didn't have to pay players or you didn't pay players. Doesn't make any sense anymore. Use the money you would spend on coaches to buy more players. Ed Orgeron won a national championship. Les Miles won a national championship. If those two can win it, any coach in the country can win it if you get them the right talent. Okay. I'm sorry. That's what I would do. And no one's doing that yet, but that would be the move. That would be how you get a dynasty. And someone's going to moneyball this and figure this out. Someone will. We just don't know who yet. But in general, NIL money is drying up to a certain degree. That's what the Texas A&M 12th Man Foundation Fund tells me. And is NIL spending about to decrease? Yes, it's not a good investment. 70%. No, boosters like to throw out cash. 30%. I'm telling you, it's not a good investment. It's 70%. Portions, and those people are right. Portions of the program are brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. RickTerryJewelry.com. It is time for the stat of the day. Or did I do stat of the day or did I do this day in Tennessee sports history, guys? Sorry, my mind is blank. Stat of the day. It's time for the stat of the day. Actually, we'll come back to the stat of the day. 2 minutes, we're going to come back to the stat of the day, and we're going to talk a little bit about Bill Belichick's girlfriend, which is a kind of a weird situation. Stick with us, Off the Hook Sports.
Like a blast from the past, the Super Dealer is back. Look to the skies, Knoxville. The Super Dealer is fighting for price, service, and the American-made. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Save up to $4,350 on a new Ford F-150 XLT, or get into a new Ford Ranger XLT with no payments for 90 days. Come see the Super Dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program are brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN, facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN. The stat of the day, it is time for that now. We're talking about Tennessee and the biggest games between Alabama and Florida and all of that. Tennessee hasn't beaten Alabama or Florida on the road in 22 years since 2003. You guys know that. Ironically, they beat both of them on the road that year, and they beat both of them on the road in 2001. However, the last time they split the two on the road was 1999 where they beat Alabama but lost to Florida. They split, by the way, in 99, 97, and 95. They tied Alabama in 93 and lost to Florida. Now that tie counts as a win. So technically, on the record books, they split 93, 95, 97, and 99. The last time they split by beating Florida and losing to Alabama when both were on the road, 1971. Just an interesting stat for you guys. Now let's have a little fun making fun of Bill Belichick. The story surrounding Bill Belichick and his girlfriend Jordan Hudson is getting cringier and weirder by the day. For those who don't remember, Bill Belichick has that 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. He's 73. Did that interview with CBS a few weeks ago, and his girlfriend shut down a couple of questions about the interview. He comes out and says that his girlfriend was right to, because CBS had agreed to not interview certain things about him. It was basically, the question was, how did they meet? And she, in the middle of the show, says, we're not doing that. He says CBS had agreed not to talk about it. 60 Minutes comes out and says, we haven't agreed to anything. UNC has to release a statement on the Bill Belichick saga. Reports come out that she's now no longer around the facilities because she's controlling things. UNC comes out and says she is allowed around the facilities. It's just a disaster. Well, Pablo Torre of ESPN was on the Dominic Foxworth show and said something very revealing, that Bill Belichick may not even coach a game at North Carolina. Let me give you guys, play some for you guys of what was being said by Pablo Torres on the Dominic Foxworth show.
Contentious over there?
I think there's a chance, an absolutely real chance, that he doesn't. And the reason I say that is because
contentious. What happens next for Coach Belichick? Do you think that he makes it to week one? Is it getting that contentious over there?
I think there's a chance, an absolutely real chance, that he doesn't. And the reason I say that is because even before the Jordan Hudson thing became as public, even before it went from messy backstage to now obviously messy everywhere, the date that matters the most is June 1st. So when this contract was reported, Dominique, when the terms of Belichick's Carolina contract that made him the highest paid public employee in the state were announced, everybody who follows contractual language pointed out that on June 1st, the buyout of Bill Belichick goes from $10 million to $1 million if Bill wanted.
So could Bill Belichick get fired before he even coaches a game on June the 1st if the buyout decreases? Guys, this is What the H, and it's What the H brought to you by Double D Piping Fire Protection. Double D Piping Fire Protection Contractors, providing around-the-clock service, protecting their customers' lives and properties at all times. DoubleDPiping.com. Could Bill Belichick really not even coach a game at Tennessee? How crazy is that to think about? Look, this is a crazy situation. Or at UNC, excuse me. How messy is this? Is this the messiest college football situation of all time? Let's ask, what's the messiest college football situation of all time? That's the poll question. And I'm going to say this. College football coaching situation ever. Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. I'm going to say Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle. Or Mike Price and a stripper. Or Mike Price and Destin. We'll do that. What is the messiest college football coaching situation ever? Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle, Mike Price and Destin. You guys vote on that. Does this rival Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle or Mike Price and Destin? For those who don't know, just for our younger viewers, and everybody knows, but I just want to point this out. Bobby Petrino was in a motorcycle accident with a woman he was having an affair with that got him fired from Arkansas way back in 2011. I think we know that story now. Mike Price was in Destin, Florida. He had just been hired from Washington State to Alabama in 2003. And on a coaching trip, he went to Destin, and he, on university credit cards, paid a woman to spend the night with him in a hotel room, and he wanted to come back for seconds the next day, and the woman ran up the credit card, and that's how he got caught. Does this rival those two situations, guys? I don't know. I don't really know, but I think it's debatable. I think it's very, very debatable on whether or not it rivals this situation. Now, and you are right. I'm going to add one more. Sorry. I'm sorry I didn't add this on the poll question, but Ed Orgeron at LSU hitting on the booster, still one of the best ones. Booster's wife, okay? Ed Orgeron, for those who don't know, and I don't have it up there, so I'm just going to tell you the story. Ed Orgeron, after winning his national title, thing gets to his head, divorces his wife, and hanging out with a bunch of different girls, bringing cheerleaders to practice, and goes up to the wife of a booster Ed at a gas station and goes, reportedly, "You look like you work out. Want to work out together?" And reportedly, the woman said she was pregnant, and he goes, "What does that have to do with anything?" Unfortunately for him, the person he said that to was the booster's wife, was the wife of a booster. So that was one of the best. I'm not doing the Sandusky and Joe Pa one. That's one that Adam brought up. That's a crime against humanity that's much more serious than just laughing off like a personal moral failing. Okay, I'm not going to do like Sandusky, Joe Paterno. I'm not going to do Larry Nassar at Michigan State. Like those are serious crimes against humanity ones. Yes, they're messier, but not in a way to laugh at. So that's why I'm doing the Bill Belichick one, Ed Orgeron one, Bobby Petrino one, or Mike Price one. I'm going to say, what's the messiest college football coaching situation ever? I'm going to restart the poll question, but right now it looks like you guys are saying Bill Belichick and his girlfriend is at 33%. Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle at 50%. Mike Price and Destin at 17%. I'm going to end this poll because I want to start it over by adding Ed Orgeron. I apologize. Thank you to who brought that up. I believe that was GBO Kyle Beach, our Ed at LSU trying to sleep with the booster's wife. GBO Kyle Beach, you were perfect to bring that up because you have beach in your name, and now Ed Orgeron. We mentioned Destin. Ed Orgeron is just living on the beach right now. Again, What the H brought to you by Double D Piping. A quick message from them, and then we'll reset the poll question.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
All right, so what is the messiest college football coaching situation ever? Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle, Mike Price and Destin, or Ed Orgeron courting Booster's wife? You guys go ahead and vote on that. Because what's the messiest college football coaching situation ever? Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle, Mike Price and Destin, or Ed Orgeron courting Booster's wife? For me, it's Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle. It's Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle. The press conference is still one of the greatest press conferences of all time with Bobby Petrino in the neck brace. I mean, guys, just the press conference alone is why you have to go with Bobby Petrino on this, because Bobby Petrino in the neck brace is one of the funniest things to have ever witnessed if you're a college football fan. Okay, like look at this. Come on, this is the messiest college football coaching situation ever. All right, Bobby Petrino and the neck brace. Look, come on. This by far is why this was the messiest situation. Mike Price and Destin was good. Ed Orgeron is funny just because you could just picture Ed Orgeron saying what he allegedly said to the Booster's wife, and Bill Belichick and his girlfriend is just weird. But actually, as of right now, Bill Belichick doesn't seem like he's done anything too immoral. Hasn't used university credit cards, hasn't creeped on anybody, hasn't, as far as we know, cheated on his wife to this point. This just is a cringe girlfriend thing. That's all that's kind of weird for this one. As Derek says, it's just cringe. It's as cringe as it's gotten. It is the most cringe because he's out in the open with it, but it actually is the least scandalous, I would say. GBMFO says Leach sticking a kid in the hot box was all time. I think that was Craig James's son. Yeah, there was a little bit of there was reasons to side with Mike Leach on that. But you guys are voting on the poll question right now. What's the messiest college football coaching situation ever? Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle, Mike Price and Destin, Ed Orgeron courting Booster's wife. 38% say Belichick and his girlfriend. 38% say Ed Orgeron courting a Booster's wife. 25% say Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle. Nobody saying Mike Price and Destin, guys. Man, that's one of the best ones. He only got caught because he paid for the girl to stay in the hotel. He thought he was going to come back for seconds that afternoon. Went golfing, comes back, finds out she blew up his credit card, their university credit card, ran it up. That's how he got caught. That one was good. Mike Price one was great. I think y'all are just forgetting about that one. That was a funny one. Okay. Portions of the program are brought to you by the UPS Store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated, 10629 Hardin Valley Road, 10629 Hardin Valley Road. Also, I forgot to tell you guys that the stat of the day was brought to you by Work Trucks. They're all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with the nap hide work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Trucks supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, remember Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and in downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go online to worktrucksllc.com. Worktrucksllc.com with an X. Why risk chancing your future in business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? Worktrucksllc.com. Work Trucks will also make sure you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They'll work to make sure of that. They'll even find a perfect truck, outfit it, and make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X. LLC.com, WorkTrucksLLC.com, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. Back to the poll question: what's the messiest college football coaching situation ever? We got 36% with Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, 36% with Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle, 0% say Mike Price and Destin, and 27% say Ed Orgeron courting a Booster's wife. Well, this one hasn't gotten Bill Belichick fired yet. We're going to see how that plays out when that June 1st buyout comes, but I would just keep an eye out. I'm loving I'm loving the messiness of it, but guys, I think y'all aren't giving Mike Price and Destin enough credit. I might even lean that no one is voting it. Though Ed Orgeron quoting the Brewster's wife is funny, just because again you're picturing what Ed Orgeron says. Bobby Petrino on the okay, I'm still back to consistent. Bobby Petrino on the motorcycle is the funniest. The neck brace press conference, guys, come on. Still one of the best. Vote on that. I'll leave the poll question up for the remainder of the day as we end the show. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. Live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. I want to thank you guys all tuning in today. Again, hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on, tell a friend. We're building something great here at Off the Hook Sports, and we want you to be a part of it. Again, live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thanks again for tuning in. With Caleb Calhoun, this has been a presentation of